Well folks, who's in the mood for a little bit of nostalgia? This is the Jurassic Park Classic Games Collection, a group of 7 retro Jurassic Park games from 1993 and 1994, all brought up onto modern consoles and the PC via Steam a little bit earlier this week. It's going to set you back around £25, probably around $30, which is maybe a little bit steep. It really depends on how much love and nostalgia you have for these games and how much you appreciate the new features they've all been given as they've come into the modern age. I'm going to show you some basic stuff and we're going to check out each game in turn. Let's go. So here we are on the main screen. We can see our selected title, Jurassic Park 8-bit there at the top, but let's go through our options, limited though they are. We've got a credits scene, we've got a languages, English, French, Italian, German and Spanish, and pretty cool though, we also have a music player picking all the different tracks from all of the different games as you can see. So if you were a really big fan of the Radio Comms theme tune, you can stick that on and have a lovely time, I suppose. There you go. It wasn't really necessary that they did this, but it's a nice little addition to say the least. What is missing, however, is an options screen. Now, I'm not looking to add ray tracing, alright? I'm not looking to add much of anything. As you can see from the recording, there are black bars at the top and bottom of the screen. I'm having to play this collection in windowed mode. There is no option at all for a full screen or a borderless windowed mode. This is regular windowed mode, stretched as far as it can go. So I think they've not bothered to add those settings when they've brought the game from console to PC, basically. It's a little bit of a shame. I'd like to see that fixed. It ruins my immersion a little bit, when I've got my own taskbar and timers at the top and stuff like that. So I'd love to see that setting added in a future patch. But let's check out those games, starting off with Jurassic Park 8-bit. Amazing. So Jurassic Park 8-bit, the very first title in the series. I'm going to hop in game and show you some gameplay. This is a game that came out in 1993, developed by Ocean Software, and this came out for the NES, for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's worth noting before we dig into any more of this, if you're considering picking up this package, maybe you didn't play these games, but you're a big fan of Jurassic Park. If you're not used to retro games, you will find this quite a challenge. These games are not easy, they don't hold your hand. You'll see I've spawned in here and already I'm being beset upon by hordes of dinosaurs. I don't know what they're meant to be, little T-Rexes or little raptors, and a bunch of them there as well. Our task, of course, is to collect some eggs and explore the island. Now, these games haven't just been brought up to work on modern consoles and modern PCs, however, they have a bunch of features, and we're going to check those out for this one. So I'm going to hit the right trigger, and that's going to bring up our menu, of course inspired by the car window from Jurassic Park. So we've got an in-game map. This is for a couple of different titles. Really, really useful because it's very easy to get lost in these games. It doesn't show you where you are, but it should be pretty easy to figure that out. This is basically just a flat JPEG that's been pasted onto a screen. It is a little annoying that it moves... It's got inverted controls for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but it's very useful to have a map. Those of you who played these games back in the day will be aware of that. We can change the screen size, as you can see, from native 2x or full screen. So if you wanted to maintain a little bit closer to the original aspect ratio, obviously it's not completely original, you won't be able to see a bloody thing, but if you wanted a little bit closer to the original resolution, you can do that. Personally, I'd always leave it on full because I think it's, I think they've sized it up pretty well. There's no artificing or anything like that. It looks pretty great. We can turn on a CRT TV filter, which is pretty sweet as well. Just makes it look more like those original TVs, of course, we played the games on all those years ago. It'd be nice if it had also like a curved effect to represent the inevitably curved effect of those screens that we used to have in the past. The border is this thing you can see at the side, this kind of lovely Jurassic Park sunset motif. We can reset the game, we can load, and we can save absolutely anywhere we want. That's a really big deal, as you'll see in the future games. Now, already that's a pretty good suite of stuff, but there is one extra bonus. Rather than having to rely on save files if you've made like a small mistake, let's say I'm fighting these little dinosaurs here and I get bit, oh no, and I want to undo that. I don't want to reload the save. I've done so much work. What we can do instead is hold the left trigger. And as you can see, it rewinds, again, in very classic sort of VHS looking style, and we can undo the damage. So, ow, I've been bit. Oh no, reverse. There you go. Very, very helpful. These games are difficult. All of these games are difficult. They will punish you. You will die quite a lot. And not having to rely on just straight up save files is going to make it a lot smoother. And of course, if you don't want that, if you want the retro effect, if you want that challenge, if you want that difficulty, you can just ignore the left trigger. You can ignore that rollback effect entirely. It is 100% up to you. So let's go check out the other games in the list. Our next game is Jurassic Park Genesis. I love that even all these years later, that intro is super atmospheric and super intimidating. So again, we are respawning right in front of a dinosaur trying to kill us. You're not going to get given controls, you're not going to get given anything like that. You have to figure it all out, all on your lonesome. Jurassic Park Genesis released in 1993 for the Sega Genesis and indeed the Sega Mega Drive, which is what you would have called it if you, like me, were in Europe. You dead? Yep. Developed by Blue Sky Software. Personally, for me, this one and its sequel, which we'll see a little bit later on, these were the games I mainly played. I didn't really play the NES versions, but I was obsessed with this Sega Mega Drive version and indeed the sequel to it. So if you're going to pick these games up for anything, these are the ones I would mainly recommend. These are definitely the pick of the litter, in my opinion, personally. The Blue Sky games as opposed to the Ocean games. So that doesn't say the Ocean games aren't worth it. I think I'm dead. But these were my personal favourite of the bunch. But again, whoop, maybe I'm not dead. Isn't that absolutely fantastically helpful? Especially if you're going to screw up quite as much as I am. Lovely stuff. Will you leave me alone? Let's go check out our next game. Game number 3 on the list is Jurassic Park 16-bit. This was also developed by Ocean Software, also developed in 1993. Ocean brought out 3 Jurassic Park games in 1993 and 2 Jurassic Park games in 1994. They were very busy bees back in the early 90s. But as you can see from the higher fidelity, this isn't a NES game. This came out for the Super Nintendo instead. This is a SNES game with higher fidelity. Now, this is one of those games that if you played as a kid, this is one you probably want to come back to if you enjoyed it back then, because it is much, much better now. Don't know how you pick, there you go. Because back in the day, this game didn't have any save files at all. It had no password saves, it had no save states. If you wanted to beat this, difficult is worth remembering, quite a hard game. If you ever wanted to beat it, you die already. You had to complete the entire game in a single go. I know that and I know a few of you at home probably, what you would have done is leave your Super Nintendo on for possibly days at a time because you couldn't complete the game in one single sitting, but obviously you didn't want to lose your save files. So now you can not only have the reverse, as you can see, but of course you have proper save states that you can save absolutely anytime you want just by hitting the right trigger. This is definitely the game I think that benefits the most out of all of them of this moving to the modern consoles and modern PCs. Our final game from 1993 is Jurassic Park Portable. Now, as you might be able to tell from this screen, this is a direct port of the NES game we played a little bit earlier on. The only difference, of course, is that the graphics are, of course, a little bit lower. This came out on the Game Boy, the original Game Boy instead. And as you can also see, Alan is absolutely bloody hench. I'm not sure why, but they made Alan into a little bit of a monster. The boy is humongous. But other than that, this is basically a direct port of the NES version. It does make it feel maybe a little bit pointless in some ways. I don't think you'd play both the NES version and this version ever, really. But, you know, maybe you just want to mix things up in terms of the graphics. I do like how the Game Boy version looks in its own special way. It's very clean and crisp. And it does make me feel like I'm playing on a giant Game Boy, which, you know, I loved my Game Boy back in the day, so that's got some nostalgia for me for sure. And I believe I played this version, not the NES version, when I was a kid. So, you know, maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's whatever it makes it work for you. Maybe you just prefer the graphic style of this one compared to the NES version. Either way, they are basically the same game, just ported to a different console. But we still have 3 more to go. Our 5th game is Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues. With this one, we get to choose our own mission. Let's do T-Rex Carnage, of course. And this came out in 1994, also developed, of course, by Ocean Software. And this was a direct sequel to the SNES game that came out in 1993. But of course, they've made some changes. They've moved from a top-down view over to this side-scrolling view instead. Perhaps inspired by the success of the games for the Sega and the Sega Mega Drive and the Sega Genesis. So they moved to a different format. I never played this one. I didn't actually know it existed until this collection, if I'm totally honest with you. So I'm pretty excited to give this one a go myself. I don't know if this man is meant to be Alan Grant. It doesn't really look like Alan Grant. I'm getting annihilated here. Bloody Nora. One of the common things you'll see in this game, of course, is you're often playing as Alan Grant. You don't really play as anyone else. Largely, you'll play as other things very soon. Oh, nice, as you'll see. But you largely play as Alan Grant, and you'll spend most of your time running around the island shooting dinosaurs. It's quite amusing because it's really antithetical to what Jurassic Park was always aiming for. Jurassic Park was never running gun madness. Jurassic Park was never meant to be your classic action hero. But, oh, that's a chunky Dilophosaurus. But here we are, running around, gunning dinosaurs down. Our penultimate game, Jurassic Park 2 Portable. So this is once again a Game Boy game from Ocean Software, released in 1994. The difference with this one, that although it is kind of a semi-port of the game we just saw, that side-scrolling game, Jurassic Park 2 The Chaos Continues, this is not a direct port, this is its own thing. Unlike the SNES port we had in 1993, this one is a standalone title, so you can play both of them and do its own thing. As you can see, there's no mission select. We started here in Zone 1 with this lovely rotund Alan roaming around, shooting dinosaurs in the face as he's wont to do. One of the things I definitely recommend if you're going to pick up this collection, first of all, turn the borders on because I think it makes it look a lot cooler. Just spend a little time before you commit to your playthrough, just learning the controls. Also, look at his legs when he lands. A nice little bit of detail. Just spend a little time learning the controls. The game's not going to tell you any of the controls. You know, games didn't do that. We had manuals, I suppose, back then. It would have been nice to see the manuals maybe scanned in as PDFs or something and accessible in-game as well. I do feel the collection could maybe be pushed a little further in some regards. You know, some bonus materials about the games, maybe some history about the games even. You know, I'm telling you some information, but it would have been cool if that was included as part of the files as well. It would have been nice to see them push it all a little bit further, given some of that stuff is present in the physical copies of these games. These weren't just released on PC and consoles. Well, they were, but you could also buy them not just digitally, but you could buy a physical copy as well from pretty nice limited run edition games, actually. And the final game on our list today then is Jurassic Park Rampage Edition. Have to show you the menu on this one. This was my game. This is the game I played the hell out of as a kid. Really, really love this game. This is, of course, a sequel to the first game on the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis. We saw the Jurassic Park game on there. Really, really, really cool game. Fantastically animated. As with the other one, we can choose if we want to play Grant, or we can even play as the Velociraptor if we want. And just watch what happens when I load into this game. Alright? We're loading into the aviary, and then... oh, something's eating me. Literally... within a split second of loading into this game, something is eating you. Like, as you spawn in, something is trying to eat your face. If that doesn't tell you what kind of game you're into, then nothing will. You know, that really sets the tone for what's to come. Also, so does the way that compies get off me. Get off me. Well, this was a fantastic game. If you're going to play any of the games from this collection, the Sega Mega Drive ones were my personal choice. I was addicted to this game as a kid. Not that I would be... the controls still feel a bit wonky, it must be said at times. I know I can jump up there. I know that's where I need to go, but I can't seem to do it. But yeah, these are a lot of fun. There's some fantastic animations, some really cool levels, especially as Grant later on, where you're getting pursued by a Rex and you're, you know, moving through this sort of lava-filled water area. There's an area where you ride on a Gallimimus. There's a lot of very, very cool stuff in these Sega games. And as you can see, I think they are by far the more atmospheric and cool looking out of the games available. And that's it. 7 different Jurassic, well, 6 really, 6 Jurassic Park games and a direct port of one of them, but a pretty cool collection. Definitely a lot of nostalgia for me personally. Fun note, well, not fun note, but Jurassic Park Rampage Edition and the original Genesis one over here were originally not part of this collection. These were added quite late in the day. I really hope this collection does well for 2 reasons. One, I'd love to see more of this. There's a fantastic Jurassic Park game, the Lost World Jurassic Park game for the PS1. If we could start getting to that level of modern emulation, that'd be fantastic. And also just for game preservation in general. These 7 games now are going to survive. It doesn't matter if the original hardware dies, that would be sad, but one day there will be no more working Game Boys. But these games will survive on, and they'll always be accessible on consoles, and indeed, even more importantly, preserved on PC. I think that's really cool and should be supported. Look at the animation of the Rex. It looks so good. So that's the Jurassic Park Classic Games collection. Are you going to pick this up for yourself? Which of these games would you be most excited by? Did you play any of these yourself as a kid or even more recently than that? Let me know down below, and I hope you all have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for joining me. Cheers much love as always. Bye-bye.